It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. Today's video is going to be a comparative video, probably. It's probably the best way I think it's going to go. And what I've got today is actually two XD75 mechanical keyboard kits. Now these have been lent to me courtesy of Mitenele. Thank you very much, because he decided that he wanted two of them. So he's bundled them together, one with the red rubber band and one with a classic blue rubber band. The difference between these two kits is that they actually come from two different suppliers. So one kit with the red rubber band, which we'll have a look at in detail, is the MassDrop XD75, and the one in the blue is actually from KPRepublic. Now in theory they should be pretty much the same thing, but I guess we'll find out if they are or are not. I'm assuming to some extent that Mitenele has already opened these up just to check them out, but he hasn't actually built them. And yeah, so I haven't actually opened them yet. I got them this morning from him. He was very kind to come by, take his own time, drive a very long way to drop these off rather than ship them. And yeah, now I've also got my desk set up changed a little bit different today, and what I've done, trying to not do a crotch shot as such, is I've actually got my camera that I had previously on the these magnet arm things for my helping hands, my soldering helping hands, and I've actually clamped them to the rails of my IKEA desk, and I've sort of used that so it might be a little bit easier to work with. We'll see how that goes, because I do want to have a look at the keycaps that are actually part of these sets. So let's switch over to the desktop and have a look. So that itself down here is just that black thing is the loop that we've been seeing, the 10 times magnification, and of course the box is here. So now I do have a bit of masking tape that I can use if the two are the same, and we won't confuse them. I'll just put that back there. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the MassDrop set. Hopefully I'm not going to lose or break the rubber band. Okay. So he's bundled them together because they are actually a kit, and we can see from the labels on the boxes here, we've got the XD75 add-on XDA die sub, and then it was a silver with Gator-on yellow kit. Now whether that's actually what's inside or not, I don't know, but we'll get to it. First and foremost, let's have a look at the actual keyboard, and we'll look at the keycaps later in a second. This is really weird for me because having the camera bit right in front of me I don't normally have, so it's kind of a little bit in the way to what I'm used to. How have they done this? Oh, it swings out like that. Okay. Yeah, right. So you can tell I don't open a lot of... Alright. So, there's your Gator-on yellows. Nice and flat. I hope to maintain that flatness because I want to be able to put these back in the box. Very plain, but it's been sunken in there. It's quite a good sort of divot, but from what I can tell, the XD75 is a bent aluminium or steel plate. It's an ortholinear setup, 75%. So that's what I'm kind of expecting to see here. Alrighty. So we have, it's a kit, there's a cable in there. It's USB-C. Metallic braid, pretty nice. We've got some bump-on feet and some case screws. And we've got actual feet. Okay. I suppose that's so you can have it much lower, and that will give you probably close to your 5 degree or something like that. Don't need to take them out because they're not going to get in the way. And we have, okay, so I don't think this is actually the bent edition of the XD75 because this feels like an actual case, not a bent metal case. So it's heavy. It's got a good amount of weight to that. Let's carefully remove these bits. They've put the PCB inside it, and there you go. Look at that. That's really nice. So there's the PCB, and as I had said just moments ago, there is a ortho setup. Now this has got the Kale hot swaps in it, which I was actually not expecting at all. Maternal Ed, did you know that this was hot swap? Because I thought it wasn't. Anyway, there's an interesting array of components here, so let's check out what is going on here. Okay, so we've got a microcontroller here it's sticky. That's like not cool. It looks like it's rosin. It's kind of, you know what? This is exactly what this front mount camera is gonna do for me. Let's check it out. Okay, let's see if this will work. Yeah, all right. Look at that. So there's all this brownie stuff on it, and it's sticky. So it's probably flux, but they just didn't clean it off at the factory, which is it's a bit unfortunate. I can't really even read the printing on that because it's so dirty with that flux on top. Okay, well at least the front camera setup kind of works. All right, so we got Cal hot swaps. We've got some RGB that we can see that's happening here as well. Yeah, pretty cool. Now I'm gonna just blind myself. I know that I'm probably gonna regret this, but I've got to do it. I've got to do it. So that's quickly, because I'm not actually building this kit in this video or anything like that. Let's just plug that in to the cable, and then we'll get the end of that cable, and in it goes. Hello? No? It's USB-C. It should go in any way it likes. There we go. Right. Nothing happened. There's no lighting on this. I don't understand. Normally I would expect it to light up straight away. But there was no lighting. Let's just try flipping that around. Okay, so no lighting has occurred. But you know what? I wasn't sure if I should have been expecting it or not, but I was hoping that it might light up, and it didn't. Probably need to flash it, which at this point in time, I'm not going to delve too far into it. Right, let's keep moving. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Or at least as quick as I normally do with these kinds of videos. Right, let's carefully put the PCB back into its cushion. Alright, there we go. And let's get back to the actual case bit. Ooh, actually, I put it into the wrong one, didn't I? Because the PCB should have gone into that. Yeah, that's what it was wrapped in. Doesn't matter. I'll get to it. I'll fix it up. Right. Case. Look at this. It is nice. It's very clean. It's very smooth. I don't see any machine marks around the edges. Let's have a look at the front. It's very, very shiny. That's got a nice recess to it, nice and even. So it's nice and flat. And then the underside, we've got space for our 4 bump-ons, and there's the 2 attachments for the feet itself. So that's cool. And then we get to the plate. There you go. So it's got a standard sort of, well, it's ortho, but what I mean by standard is that it's got switch opening cutouts in it, which is really interesting because it's a hot swap. So even if you didn't want to work with it in the plate, you could just pop them out. Well, look, it's there. It's actually very nice and flat, I think. Ooh, is there a slight curvature on that? There's a very, very, very slight curvature on this edge. I don't know if the camera's gonna show that up or not. Probably doesn't really have the same. It's very hard to tell, but from my eyes, you can see there's a very gentle curve across that, but it's aluminium, so it hasn't got any sort of really bad kinks or anything like that. So that's what the MassDrop version looks like. Okay, that's what the MassDrop version looks like. So that's, I think this is how they had it, or something like this. Okay, there we go. Put the cable down, put that on top, put that back in its corner, and so it's a very simple kit, but it looks pretty good, and it's nice that it's got hot swaps in it, which means you don't actually have to solder anything, which is cool. And let's have a look at the die-sub keyset. Now this one, I was told beforehand by Maternale that there had been some issues. Ooh, okay. I need to take that off screen because that's got a packing slip and address on it. Because some people had some minor complaints about the quality of the die-sub and the edges of the keycaps bleeding. Now, just at first appearances, it looks okay. I wouldn't say that they're terribly, terribly bad at all. But we'll bring up that front camera and check it out. So that's what that XDA set looks like. And of course, because it's an ortho set, they're all one use. I do like the color on these. They're quite nice. And if I can get one of these bastards to come out, excuse my language. Wow. Okay, let's check out the thickness of these keycaps. So it's a good amount of thickness there. If I get my ruler and check up against that ruler, we can see it's a 1.5 mil. So they're thick, and when you actually press on it, it doesn't really have much flex at all. They have a good texture to them. They feel quite nice, smooth, but with a little bit of that sort of graininess about it. Of course, let's actually have a look at the PBT. Are they PBT? Oh, that's my bad. I do apologize because I'd unplugged the camera from when I tried to use that USB cable. Let's try that again. There we go. All right. So let's have a look at this RMK logo and let's see if the discussion about the bleed is actually an issue. If I can get it to focus. Maybe it doesn't like to focus because it's so blurry. Let's get the caps lock key because it's actually got text on it and see if the camera will pick up on the caps lock. There we go. Okay. So it's, I wouldn't say it's too bad, but I can kind of see what they mean. If the edges on it are not, they're not super sharp. Now you could say, oh, it's the focus of the camera, but as I move this in and out and the camera attempts to maintain focus on it, it's doing a relatively decent job on that. You'll see that the edges remain fuzzy regardless. There's a little bit of bleed. Look, to be honest, I'm not going to say it's a huge amount of bleed. I'd actually be okay with that because dye subbing is quite a challenging process, especially on a textured surface. If these are smooth and you had bleeding like that, then you'd see it a lot more and it'd be a lot worse. But because the scale of these, they're very small. At least those letters are. And if I take up this tray and just go and have a look at any of these letters themselves. Okay. I don't know if the light's working very well. Let me see if I can get some extra light on that. What am I unplugging? I don't have enough ports on my computer. There we go. To be able to keep stuff in all the time. Right. So let's have a look at that V again. Yeah, there we go. It's much better, isn't it, with the light on? Okay. I would actually say that's pretty clean. It's pretty crisp. That bleed down the middle of the V is tiny. So tiny. And the edges are actually quite clean. The tops are flat, and I would have zero issues with this at all, quality wise. And I'm sure you could probably get worse than what they've managed to do here. Now, noting that this is actually magnified, you know, when you look at this from a normal perspective from far away relative to the actual size of the cap and the dye subbing, come on, if you're going to gripe about this kind of quality, then you need to find something better to do, because that's actually, it's pretty good. I'd be pretty happy with this. I'd be pretty happy with this. Let's go back to this RMK symbol. There we go. Look, I mean, look at it. It's ISO, but it's pretty sharp. Seriously. Whoever said that this thing had bleed and the actual dye subbing on this wasn't very good, come on. Let's check out the Windows logo, shall we? I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty crisp. So, no complaints at all. They're thick. They got a good texture on them. I mean, I'm just literally doing this after I rub my fingers on them, and that's good. It's good. Right. Back to the desktop. Okay, so you get the full set as part of that, and it's lovely. Don't know what people are complaining about. Now let's leave the light on and let's look at the KPRepublic version of the XD75. Now, whether Mittanole actually ordered the same exact type of kit or not, we'll find out in just a brief moment. Right. Okay, so the top, I'm assuming, is heavy. Whoosh. There's Chinese written on this, and it says XD60, actually. Right there it says XD60, so I don't know what's going on here. And then this is got some Chinese on it that I can't read either. So let's go with the light box first. It says the keycap. So this is probably the key set to go with it. And okay, here we go. Yeah, that's nice. The white and the blue, good sort of contrast. Good. Ooh, I just got the hiccups for some reason. Okay. So just 2 layers. 3 layers. 3 layers with the keycap puller. I'm about to sneeze, so excuse me. Woo! Let's have a look at the dice lock quality since we're back to back on that. And okay, let's have a look at the V. See, these letters have a slightly different font to it. You can tell straight away because the top of the V's are not flat. But this is just as clean. It's just as crisp. No complaints about that. Let's look at the C. If I can, there we go. Very minimal bleed at all. Let's have a look at the Q. The inside of that's very, very clean. Yeah, so the quality on this die subbing is it's pretty good. I'd be happy with that. Just a slightly different font where the ends of the lettering is actually rounded off as opposed to it being straight edged. Now if we have a look at it from underneath, we can see, oh, there's a bit of a sprue mark over here in that corner. These look just as thick or very similar. Where's my ruler gone? And let's see if I can bring that up. There we go. So we can see it's a 1.5 mil thereabouts as well. So very comparable. Very comparable. Very comparable. 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 Much the same. I actually don't know how much Metanola paid for these, by the way. So if one is significantly cheaper than the other, then it's like, well, what are you paying for in the price difference between the two? If they were the same price, then I would say, yeah, okay, that's cool because you're getting pretty much the same thing. So that was the key set. And we will discover what is in this heavy boy. Now if this is an XD60, not a 75, that would explain things perfectly. It's a good bit of foam there. And this is upside down. Let's not. So KPRepublic on that. It's already got the feet attached. That's why it's upside down. Oh, that plate is bent as brew. Alright, so the feet have been installed on this. Now whether Metanola did that or not, I actually don't know. It's a very similar case. It doesn't have round bump-on feet on it. It's got rectangular bump-on feet, and it's got KPRepublic etched into that. There's a little bit of a bump there next to the screw. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't think it's meant to be there, because this side doesn't have it. But that's actually, let's use the camera again while I've got it here. Alright. See that mark? That looks like something crashed into it and bent the metal up on that. That's not very good. What else can I see? Ooh, okay, so the front has a bit of damage. Look at that. What else? The back edges is good, the side edges is good, the bottoms being dinged. But what's strikingly different is the actual USB port is just a straight up open cut. So it's a straight up open cut rather than it being a nicely machined space, and it's not even cleaned off. It's not even finished well. So what I mean by that is, oh, sounds like mail. Give me a moment. Hello? Oh, I apologise for that, but mail came in and it's a whole bunch of sewing stuff for my wife. She's been waiting for that. There we go. Alright, so where was I? Yes, the USB socket has been poorly finished because if you have a look at that, it's rough as. That cut, that edge there, they haven't smoothed it at all on either side. So I'm just going to flip that around. Look at that. It's even still got a bit of metal shaving hanging off of it. That's just poor. Poor form. But of course, depending on how much you paid for this, maybe that's okay. Because if you paid, you know, half the price or something, then I'd probably be like, you know what? I'm okay with that at half the price. They're blemishes, they're not going to really affect the function, it's just how it looks. Now, that doesn't fit inside, that strip foam, so it's probably not going to be useful for dampening purposes. Let's have a look. We've got a puller, a bent metal puller. There's a bunch of hardware here, I'm assuming, for mounting things in the case. We've got the strip feet, some more hardware, and yet again we have more hardware. What do we need all these screws and bolts for? Right, now this is a steel plate, so it's really heavy, and you can't see because I forgot I was using this front camera. I do apologize. Alright, so let's just put right, so we have this. It's like a switch puller, keycap puller of some kind. It looks really huge, but it's flexible enough that you can bend it. Not really recommended because that will scratch up your caps and stuff. We've got some feet and screws, more screws and nuts, or bolts and nuts. That's why I'm a little bit confused on what that's all for. But this is a steel plate, as I was saying. What is with that? Why is there cut out there? But look at it. It is so bent. It is just wow. I'm pretty sure that's not aluminium because it's super heavy, actually. Well, it's probably stainless because it's not magnetic. So, yeah, but that's not cool. That's munted right there. Let's move on to the PCB. XD75, more keys, more ideas. And this one you do need to actually solder. Haha. Right, so XD75 AM. We've got an actual chip that's not covered in gunk, which is nice. Let's see if we can read that. There we go. The Atmel Mega 32U4. Our good old buddy that lives on many devices. So we've only got one row of lighting in the middle here compared to the 2 rows that was on the MassDrop version as well. And you can see it's a USB mini here instead of a USB-C. So yeah, it's a much plainer PCB, and I'm going to say the quality is not going to be very inspiring because, like, Look at that. It's like a bit of skin tag still hanging off the pad from production. and look, it's even on this side too. What just what is going on here? I'm very confused. Okay, so now I understand. So there is a reset switch in the middle, which is why the plate has the cutout for it. That would explain things. So I wasn't sure what's going on. So that reset switch position lines up with that odd cutout position so that you can reset your keyboard when you want to flash it and program it. So it should sit, over the top just like that. Now, do they even give you that reset switch? Is there a reset switch? I am not seeing a reset switch. I am not seeing a reset switch. So essentially, if you want to, you need to use a probe or something and short that yourself to be able to reset your PCB. What can I say? To be honest, I don't know how much. I've already said I don't know how much Maternally has paid for these, but just looking at the actual overall quality and the feel of it, I prefer the MassDrop one. It just feels and looks nicer, and the plate is not munted either. Now, there's nothing underneath, so that's just a bit of plastic. I mean, it's done the job in protecting them. There's no issues there, but probably not as protective or cushiony. And this bent plate just gets me. Like, it should not have turned up like that. You could debate it. You can debate it and say, you know, it makes no impact at all on the actual board once you've soldered it in. And you can flatten it out, of course, very carefully. But that's just extra work that you shouldn't have to do. To be honest, I would even be in my mind to say, you know what, let's actually get a replacement plate, because that's really bent. They might kick back and go, no, you just straighten it out, but I'd have a crack at it at least. So there you have it. There's two different KPRepublic kits. Two XD75 kits. Even though this box says XD60 on it, it actually says XD60. Okay, so it's a bit weird. They couldn't even figure out what they were selling themselves. One courtesy of, well, not courtesy, but one purchase from MassDrop and one from KPRepublic. Of course, it's up to you to decide on which one you would go for, and if you can deal with and live with the issues and anomalies that have come up from that particular one. There's more visible damage on the case and the plate. There's less RGBs on the actual PCB itself. It doesn't come with a reset switch, and it comes with a lot of screws, and it's a USB mini rather than a USB-C, whereas the actual finish on the case from the MassDrop one is a lot cleaner, a lot smoother. There's no marks, there's no blemishes, and the USB cutout on the back is also a lot nicer because it's not just a big gaping hole at the back of the case. So there you have it. I say thank you very much, Maternally, again, of course, for coming all this way over to hand these two sets for me to check out. You've asked me to actually build one of these for you. I'll have a chat with you very shortly to find out what you want to do, because I don't know if you've realized that one of them is actually hot swap. So if it's hot swap, there's not very much for me to do at all to build it. Whereas if you want the soldering activity happening, then obviously it's going to be the KPRepublic one that actually needs soldering to put it together. So if you guys have never come across the Board Podcast before, and this is the first time, please check out our podcast. Funnily enough, the Board Podcast. It's a weekly, or we try to make it at least a weekly release, and we talk basically about all the kinds of things that we do in our lives with our personal keyboard projects, as well as what's been happening around the mechanical keyboard community. Of course, if you'd like to support us, you can chat us a coffee, you can send us a message, you can join our Patreon, and you can hit us up on Slack, Reddit, Facebook, and Instagram as well. So thank you very much for checking out the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that like button, that share button, and of course that subscribe button. So, as usual, until next time, happy clacking.